We're now going to look at a quite a fun little thing to do with CSS, and there are plenty of CSS hacks around which allow us to build certain things that we technically shouldn't be able to do, but by using a combination of different properties, we manage to achieve these. So what we're going to be doing in this part is we're going to be building arrows. Now, arrows, you could say, well, I could use an image. You could say I could use a font pack like we've already seen. We've used font packs to pull in exactly things like arrows and things like that. But what we haven't done is we haven't looked at doing this without pulling in any resources altogether. So once again, over to my network tab. I know I keep going over to this, but this is really important. We're only pulling in HTML file that we have here and our CSS file. And we're going to build some arrows, and then we're going to take them arrows and we're going to add them to a sort of speech bubble-like container. Now the reason this is good is because you can tie it into things like that to make it more applicable. You might think, what do I need triangles for on a website? Well, in this case, we're going to add it to that comment style box. Then we're going to duplicate that down the page. So essentially you could take this away and use it in some kind of, maybe if you have testimonials, you could add text inside of these, and having a speech bubble just adds that more human element to it because we recognize a speech bubble as a purveyor of speech. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a basic element on the page, and then we're going to add some styles to it. So let's go ahead and do this now, and we're going to do this in the same way as we've done everything else. We're going to do it in the cleanest possible way. So I'm going to create a div with a class of triangle, and then I'm going to say triangle up. So we'll create an up arrow first. I mean, it's an arrow, it's a triangle, the same thing. We'll call it a triangle because that's technically what it is. So inside of our style sheet then, what we want to do is we want to create this triangle CSS selector, this class selector, because this has common properties that basically are used for all of our arrows regardless of what they are. And these are the width and the height. Now the width is 0 and the height is 0. And you might think, well, if a triangle is a width of 0 and a height of 0, then how can we actually see the triangle? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use borders to push borders through and make them into a point, essentially. So we know that we can add borders to things, and we can say we can choose the size of the border, we can choose the color of the border. What we haven't spoken about is transparent. Now, transparent is pretty much a default color for most elements, except for for borders you have to sort of define a color if you want it to be seen. In this case, we're going to define transparent for some of the borders, and that's going to act as the cutting off of part of our border forming the triangle shape. So if this doesn't make sense, it will make sense soon. So for the triangle up, let's do this. Oh, and by the way, if you wanted this as a span element, it would probably make more sense like that. You would probably want this to be a display of either block or inline block. I'll do inline block for now. So triangle up, what do we do? Well, let's create a border top here. A border bottom. The general idea here is whichever way you want the arrow pointing, you set the opposite border. So I want this arrow to go up, so I'm setting the border on the bottom. So let's set the border on the bottom to say, I don't know, 10 pixels. And we'll say solid, and we'll make this black. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so it doesn't look like we are seeing anything here. Let's just take a look on the page. Okay, so we're not really seeing much at the moment with this border. But what's going to happen is we're going to also set a border, let's do a border left. So now what we're doing is we're saying a border left and a border right. Because it's because it's upwards, we're using the opposite and then the ones left over. So border left and border right. And we can set these to the same amount. It depends on how long you want it to be. We're going to say solid and transparent. And we'll do the same for this one, 10 pixels solid and transparent. So really, on its own, this doesn't make much sense. We want to create this triangle, but it's we're just using borders. Ordinarily, this concept wouldn't make sense, but I'll try my best to explain it. So with the border on the bottom, basically all this is if I increase the height, this is the actual border that's pushing up from the bottom, so it's pointing upwards. It's not actually pointing upwards because there's no point on it. We use the left and the right to cut this bit and cut this bit, and that's just basically how it works. So if you wanted perhaps a more sort of even, you could maybe reduce the border left to 6 pixels, and you could reduce the border on the right to 6 pixels, and you get a sort of more equilateral triangle. So that's how we do that. So let's take a look at doing an arrow down. Obviously, like I've said, you would do the opposite. You would do the border with a color, the opposite end to which you wanted it to point. So if it was a border, an arrow down, you would do a border top, say 10 pixels, solid black, and border left and right. I'll just write these in and then we can fill them in. We would have something like 10 pixels, solid, transparent. So these are always going to be transparent. And the same for this border right as well. 10 pixels, solid, and transparent. Okay, there we go. We get an arrow down. And remember, if you want to change the color of the actual arrow itself, just use that. Simple. Okay, so let's do a border left. We won't do a border right because we already know how to do this. That it would be a waste of time. So we're going to say for an arrow left, you've probably guessed, we want a border right of a certain width, solid, and a color. So in this case, we'll just do black. And then we want a border left. A border top and a border bottom because they're the ones left after. This, so we'll say left here, so it's border top and border bottom, and we'll set these to 10 pixels, solid, transparent, like so. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Oops, probably something gone wrong. Oh yeah, I changed the class name, so it's border left this time, triangle left this time. Okay, so we have a triangle. Now what we want to do is we want to create a series of comment style lists. So I'm going to say div class equals, we can get rid of this, comments, and in here we'll have a div with a class of comments, so it's like a plural. So comments wrapping all of our comments, and we can duplicate these down as much as we wanted to. So inside of our comment, let's write this site is great or something like that, whatever we want to do, spelling it correctly. So we've now got the following, and let's just zoom out. There we go. So we want to basically style these. So we're going to say comments, comment, or we could just say comment if you wanted to. I'm going to have a background here of, let's choose CCC maybe, and we'll choose the background color property, and then we'll have quite a large padding, so we'll do 15 pixels padding, and let's do a border of 1 pixel solid, EEE or DDD maybe, and then let's have a border radius on this of 3 pixels. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, so it's a little bit too dark, so let's say EEE. Cool, that looks okay. I think that looks quite nice. So here's our comment. What we're now going to do is just create a temporary container just to contain these in. So we'll do a width of 100% and we'll do a max width of 600 pixels, or let's do 500 pixels, and let's just enclose this in a container. There we go. So that should now be reduced. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to add the triangle bit just to over here. So it's sort of like, I mean, it could be up, it could be left, it doesn't really matter. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set the comment to have a margin on the left of say 20 pixels, just to move it away from the edge of the parent container. And then we want to put this triangle in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the triangle inside of here. So we say span class equals, let me end it, triangle, triangle, left, and then we'll get something that just doesn't look right at all. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to change the color of this triangle. Now it depends on how you want to structure this, because obviously if you have some kind of generic triangle I don't know, styles here, you might want to do triangle comment, and then in this case what you could do is you could say border right color, or you could say triangle left comment, or you could just say, you know, you can switch it around however you want. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to say border comment, a triangle comment, and I'm going to take these styles here and apply it to here. Because really, who needs a generic triangle to just place on their page? So I'm going to say triangle comment. So we've got border right, we've got a color here. We want to match this color with the background. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to position it first, because we're going to look at positioning of this. So then I'm going to change this here to triangle comment. So now we've got the same result, but it relates more to this comment now. Okay, so at the moment, we have a span in here. Now, there's positioning in CSS, which we're going to look at soon, is position absolute or position relative, which is relative to its container, etc., etc. And if you have a look here, you can see we've got fixed, inherit, initial, and static. The ones that you'll mainly come across are absolute, fixed, inherit if you need to inherit it from its parent, and relative. But we're going to be doing absolute, and then we're going to be saying top 10 pixels, and then we're going to be saying left 10 pixels. Now, if I've set the position to absolute and I'm saying left of 10 pixels, surely you would think that that's left of this container. But no, it's not, because the actual comment itself is a position of relative, and we want, well, we can check if we go to computed. We can see here we've got we can't see it. So basically what we need to do is define this. So under our comment, we need to say position, we'll put this at the top, position relative. Now, let's do the same thing as we did before with the triangle. Let's inspect this, and let's give it a position of absolute, and then let's give it a top of 0, and let's give it 10 pixels, and let's give it a left of 10 pixels. You can see it now sits inside this element. So we can use that to advantage. We can actually reduce the left positioning. If we just zoom in to the site here, what we can do is we can position that how we need it. So we can position it just there. That'll probably do. And then we can do the top maybe just to there. So I'm going to change the height of this triangle in just a moment, but there we have the styles that we need for our triangle comment. So we can just place that like that. There we go. And when we refresh, all back to normal. So the first thing we want to do is change this so it's the same color as the background color, which is EEE. So let's change that now, EEE. And there we go, it sort of blends in with it. Now we've got the problem where the border doesn't go over it. Now we can't add a border to a triangle simply because it already has borders to introduce the hack. So you could either just leave it as it is, or you could move it maybe out a little bit. You could do something like the following, like that if you wanted to. But I'm also going to reduce the top and the bottom measurements here. So I'm going to set the top to maybe 6 and the bottom to 6, and I'm going to pull that inwards like that. In fact, I'll make it a little bit larger. Oh, sorry, I set that to 3. There we go. So we've now got all of these styles. I'm just going to copy all of that and paste it back in to there, like so. And there we go. If you wanted to, you could, of course, make it larger, entirely up to you. But that's a basic about triangles and what we can sort of do with them. Like I said, we'll be learning about position absolute and everything like that in just a moment. So for now, you can just play around with triangles and use them to your advantage and see what you can do with them.